Sim videos are powered by Jetline Systems. Hello YouTube, this is Frugal, and this is the Just Flight Arrow 3 for X-Plane 11. I know a lot of you have been asking me to do more X-Plane videos. I actually did a very big one a few years ago to kind of raise awareness for X-Plane, and it's kind of gone a little bit beyond that now. And X-Plane is rapidly gaining ground in popularity because the price is really great, the features are really great, and so on and so on and so on. You know all of this, I don't need to tell you all this. The reason I just haven't done more X-Plane videos, and I was speaking about this with Jeff Favignano a little while ago, privately off camera, and he was saying how much he loves X-Plane, and I said, no, I love it too. It's a great platform. It looks good, it performs well, the aircraft handle really well. I'm just not comfortable in it. I don't have all my add-ons in it. I don't have my camera tool. I don't have my scenery in it. I don't have my aircraft in it, and so on and so on and so on. So this video, looking at this beautiful aircraft, and it really is beautiful. I'm going to leave the camera just rotating here for a while I speak so you can really take this in. This video was intended to be a first look, a first impressions at this aircraft only, but it kind of grew quite rapidly in that I ended up building out X-Plane 11 to how I want it. So I've got a lot more add-ons now in this than I would normally have. So we're running, obviously, the Just Flight Arrow 3, which I bought, by the way. Nothing in here is sponsored or provided for free. Like you guys, the vast majority of software that you see on these videos, I pay for myself. It's actually quite unusual that you'll see me review software that was provided for me, and I tend to let you know when that happens. But in this case, Just like Arrow 3, bought that. We are in Chicago. We're at Meigs Field from Orbx. Very, very happy to see Orbx now releasing scenery for X-Plane 11. Very happy. They really set the bar in FSX and prepared, so to have them come over to X-Plane hopefully is going to set the bar as well with an X-Plane. Not to say that there aren't some great scenery developers here. There are. It's just seeing Orbx here is, in my opinion, takes things to a whole other level, and I think it is a comforting feeling to have Orbx here for a lot of you FSX and prepared guys. Also running X camera. One of the biggest complaints I've had about X-Plane is the camera system. I love the built-in camera system, but it doesn't quite do everything I want it to do. I'm used to having EasyDock or Chaseplane more recently, and never had anything like that for X-Plane. So a few people had recommended check out X camera, so I have, and I bought it this weekend. What you're seeing here is X camera, and it's rotating the view for me. I set up a nice little orbit view so you can take in new aircraft that I look at, as well as I set up the in-cockpit views as well, and got them all bound to my Razor Orb Weaver the same way I normally do, and everything's good. I normally run as well XP Realistic, which adds realism stuff. I actually don't have that running on this. This is obviously the Jetline PC, and I haven't quite got everything installed yet. But yeah, normally XP Realistic, but we're going to do it without XP Realistic today. Using my Yoke of the Yoke, and using my Virtual Fly TQ6 as well. So although the video here is focused on the Arrow 3, you're going to see a lot of stuff that you haven't seen before in a Frugal Sim video. And I hope you kind of get a good view of Chicago right there in the background. We're going to be flying over that. All I'm going to do is just start this up, show you the features of it, taxi, take off, do a pattern, and land. But it's going to take a while. Let me show you some of the cool features of this. They got this pop-out menu thingy here, which is actually very cool. I've got a few things selected already. So auto fuel switch, what that means is there are two tanks in this, and typically flying it, you'd switch from left tank to right tank and back again as you burn fuel to keep the aircraft in balance. Auto fuel switch means it does it for me. Inches and millibars, obviously that's changing the settings of the barometric pressure in the cockpit. A couple of buttons here, open the doors. Very cool, you can see the animations and hear the sounds. Incidentally, when I do this, it actually doesn't latch the door. You actually need to make sure you go ahead and latch it yourself. This is the pop-out X-Plane 530 GPS. We'll be not using that, actually. No need. But it's there if you want it to pop out. These things are for reflections and textures on the windows. Let me jump into the cockpit here. I'm going to center my camera. I'm using Track IR as well with X camera. But yeah, this turns on and off window effects. So if you have a lower power PC, you can turn the window effects off like that. I have a high power PC, we're going to leave those on. And this is reflections and texturing on those glass diodes in the cockpit. We'll leave that on. Little button there to turn on the lights. Don't really worry about that. I don't know what this does. Oh, look at that. There's a volume control. I can adjust the volumes of the gyro and pump, for example, the radios the environment and so on. That's kind of neat. Weight and balance here just pops open the X-Plane weight and balance stuff. Let me just check I'm level in both tanks on the fuel, which I'm not. So we'll go ahead and we'll put 90 pounds of fuel in each tank. Have this thing in balance when we start. Great, done. Ground services, I can do pushback if I want to. That's kind of a neat touch. Also, we got a logbook right here. Obviously, this is a new PC, so I don't have a lot of stuff logged, but I do have a number of things logged here just to try out the aircraft on this set. We've got the flight computer here, which will show you the fuel burn, outside air temperature, and so on as you're flying along, and give you a pretty good view of everything and how the aircraft's performing, and let you plan your trips a little bit better. Also takes into account crosswind and all that stuff. And I'm not going to press this one. I think that engages power. I'm going to do that one manually. We have the autopilot buttons here as well, which we might use just to show you how they work. But this is very cool. Now, I film at 4K. And I scale it down to 1080p, and at 4K, as you can clearly see, this is not readable. There is a handy little trick here. Many of the aircraft and X-Plane that come with pop-ups like this don't have this handy little trick, so I'm very pleased to see Just Flight do. Just that little arrow bottom right there, just click it and drag it, and it will scale. This is the checklist system. One of the features of this aircraft, and it's actually very cool because once we get over here you can see dynamic checklist, and it will start highlighting when things are done automatically for me, which is very, very awesome. For now though, we're just going to work through this by hand, so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Don't need it to be that big, and we'll start working through this. In fact, what I do need to do, I think, let me just pop outside. Yeah, I do need to remove those chocks and everything, which is on the handy pop out, I believe, here. I hope. Oh God, no, don't want to do that. So that starts the aircraft up. Don't do that. There we go. That one. That's chocks. By the way, I can get rid of. I can change that. But by the way, there's change livery button down here. I'm surprised that did that. The change livery button down here will let you cycle through the various liveries of this aircraft without having to reload it, which is very cool and very useful. All right, let's not cheat. Let's do this properly. Get back in over here. Go back to my pilot view, and I will turn track IR back on and recenter it. So landing gear lever right there needs to be down, which it is. Parking brake needs to be set. The way you do that is click and hold. You can push down or push up will set it. Avionics switches all need to be off, and they do all now work, which is kind of cool. There used to be the case that many of these actually didn't work, and it kind of ignored everything you did. That's not the case anymore. That's a hard one to see, isn't it? That's off right there, and that's off right there. We'll switch off this one. All my avionics switches are on. Whoever flew this aircraft last was not very good at keeping the cockpit nice and as it should be. By the way, cool little feature of X camera is I set up track IR limits, which means if I lean wildly to the left, look, I lean up against the glass. How cool is that? And similarly, if I lean back, I can't go back through the seat, which is nice. I like that little touch. I do have to keep recentering it though, which is a bit of a pain. Avionics is off. Mixture should be on idle cutoff, which it currently is. I'll just cycle my levers there just to make sure. Great. Magnetos should be off. They currently are. Battery master switch now goes on. That would be that left one there. And having done that, we're going to check the fuel gauges, which will be that one, and they are exactly as they should be. Check the annunciator panel. Press the test. We're all good there. And then battery master switch off. Having done all of that, the checklist is asking us to do a primary flight controls check. So what I'm going to do is lock track IR. We'll pop outside. I've got a view set up at the back here. Let's just move this a little bit out of the way. Yes, my primary flight controls are just fine. Let's check my rudder pedals. And my seat. See, this is why we do these tests, because my seat was not in a good position to get good traction on my rudder pedals, but now they're all good. So yes, our controls, primary flight controls, are ready to go. Now at this point, you would start to do the walk around. I don't believe there is an interactive walk around in this aircraft, so I'm going to skip all of this stuff and assume we're all good. And now we can go over to before start. So back into the cockpit. Brakes, make sure that they're set, which I believe they still are. Good. Circuit breakers, make sure they are in. Well, they are. They're all down there and they're all in. Great. Alternate air, which is that lever there, should be in the off position. Prop Now it should be full forward. Sorry if the camera view switched wildly to the right. I was actually looking at my physical levers. And the avionics are off. We did that. Fuel selector needs to be on the left tank. Now I actually do have a view for that. Let me see where it is. There it is. I'm going to switch that onto the... Oops. Are you going to move for me? No. Oh my goodness. Still struggling a little bit with X-Plane's views and click spots, but that's on the left tank. Good to go. Next page. Now we're going to do engine start. Well, we're not. We didn't turn on any lights. Let me go on down here. I have a view here, so we're going to turn on the rotating beacon, just to let people know that we're good. We have power in this aircraft. And with that done, we'll open the throttle just about half an inch, which I think is about there. Now this bit I don't actually like. The alternator needs to go on. Tricky. And the battery master switch needs to go on. Equally tricky. Now the fuel pump goes on. Noisy. Mixture rich, then idle cut off. That's how we prime. And again, I was looking at my physical levers there. Great. Make sure the prop is clear, and then we go starter engage. Now this is the bit I don't like. I can't find a way to just hold this on start, so it gets really awkward. I need to kind of flick it over, and at the same time reach over with my other hand and run the mixture lever up, which is kind of awkward. So I'm going to lock track IR off there, which means I can lean over here. There's the mixture lever. I'm good to go. So rotate that. You see what I mean? That's not cool. Whoa, the parking brakes. I did knock them off. This is why you're supposed to follow the checklist and check them. Now my directional gyro, X-Plane 11, is telling me is not good. So I have a view for that. That will be down here. There's my directional gyro. Where's my compass? I've lost my compass. There it is. So we're just... what is that, 95 degrees-ish. So we'll just click on this. There we go. Just click the center of that and it will recenter this, which is kind of handy. So starter engaged, mixture full rich, engine has started. Magnetos now need to be on both, which they are. Throttle we will adjust. We'll try to get 1500 RPM, which is about there. And having got that, I'll just pull the mixture back and lean this aircraft a little bit on the ground, which means I'll pull the throttle back now. I have a little bit of noise in my throttle. They got a bit dusty. Living in Florida, we run air conditioning pretty much the whole year round, which means houses here tend to get dusty. And I'm always struggling with dust in my controllers. That seems good. A little bit of movement from that, but that's fine. Throttle's adjusted. Oil pressure. Well, I need to go back up to my main view. Reset, track IR. We'll look down here. Oil pressure is down there. Oil pressure is good. Temperatures are not yet, but we're all good to go. So with all that done, now we've got to wait to taxi. Well, we're not in a position to taxi just yet. I did want to have my temperatures come up, but we will turn on the beacon at this point. We're not going to turn on the lights. Landing light, taxi light are the same thing in this aircraft. I could actually run the fuel pump off at this point. We'll turn it back on as we get ready to take off. I'm just going to sit here and sit outside. Well, let's go outside, actually. We'll turn the avionics on before we do that, just to make sure everything is ready and good to go. Come on. I really don't like that switch. It's hard to see. That's not a problem with the aircraft. It's just hard to see. There we go. We'll rotate that one on. I think we're all good to go. So we'll pop it outside while this heats up, and you can take a look again. Absolutely beautiful aircraft. Really enjoying spending time with this. It's not quite study level. When I say that for a GA aircraft, it really means I'm kind of hoping for the A2A level of fidelity and systems and all that kind of stuff. We're not quite there yet with this, but it's getting closer. It is a very high quality aircraft. I don't mean to diss them, but I would say it's a lot better than nearly all the Coronados, which is strange because the X-Plane version of this was actually developed by Dan Cloud, who used to be the guy that did all the Coronado aircraft for X-Plane. He's moved on. He's now Thrander Design, and Thrander Design are the people that took the Just Flight Arrow and their other aircraft, other GA aircraft, from Just Flight's internal development team and ported them over to X-Plane. It's very good. It's very, very good. And the modeling on this is great. Look at that. You can even see the detail on this prop, but that's an X-Plane feature. You can really see this prop rotating, which is great. It looks like it's got some substance to it, doesn't it? Like you really would not want to walk into that. It's great. And wonderful lights. Now in terms of my settings here in X-Plane, I've got everything pretty much maxed. I have the number of objects, not as the far right, but one notch to the left. The one thing I do tend to turn off, particularly with high quality scenery like this and Custer Field from X Aviation, I had a lot of problems with that. I tend to turn off reflections. That gives me a considerable jump in frame rates. And I'm usually running this around 45 to 55 frames per second. And yeah, that's great. Everything's exactly where I want it to be. It looks amazing. Let's jump back in. How are we doing? Oh god, I changed my chair. Okay, now we're moving up into the green, so let's bring back our handy dandy checklist. Taxi area is clear, there's nobody here. So we could, look, beautiful static aircraft there from Orbx. Parking brake released, and we're going to apply the throttles, do a brake check and the steering check. Now this aircraft really goes on the ground. You got to stay on top of it or it will rapidly get away from you. So I'm going to turn the brakes off, or click the brakes off, there we go. Knock the throttle off, so there's my brake check, brakes are just fine, and there's my steering check, steering is just fine. So we'll turn left here, and we'll taxi out to runway 18 here at Meigs Field. Meigs Field actually no longer exists, well it kind of does, but it doesn't. It's closed as an airfield some years ago, quite a controversial closure. I even had some comments here on the channel when I last covered Meigs Field, getting all very upset about everything. We're not in this for the politics, we're just here to play with airplanes. Alright, ground check. So I'm going to stop here, put the parking brake on again. Tricky to do. There we go, parking brake is on. Prop now goes full forward, which it currently already is. Throttle up to 2000 RPM. Oh, you can really feel it straining on the brakes there. Just drop the power a little bit to 2000 RPM. Good, there's the RPM. Left mag. That's all fine. Back up to 2000. Right mag. And that's all fine. Back up to 2000. Vacuum should be about 4.8. Let's drop my view down here. As I said, I do have reflections turned on. There it is, 4.8 to 5. Go away. That's all great. What else? Oil temperature now should be up, which it is. Oil pressure is good. Diameter, I'm not sure how to check that. We will press the test on the annunciators though. We will exercise the props by going, whoa, not with the mixture, by going full up, back, and then full forward. Make sure it cycles the way it should, which it does. Good. Alternate air, we want to check that. I don't know if I have a view that will get me there. No, I don't. So let's go back on over here. Once again, reset track IR. Alright, so we're just going to cycle this down, all the way down. No adverse effects from doing that, which makes me very happy. I'm not sure what I am supposed to do with that, to be honest. Fuel pump at this point would go off. Fuel pressure is checked. And now we can retard the throttle back towards idle. And we are good to go. So next up, it's going to be the before takeoff check. Let's line up and we'll get ready to do all of that. So, brakes off. Bring that throttle back. I'm watching my ground speed down here. You can see it really starting to climb rapidly. Now, because Meigs is not an active airfield anymore, I didn't find charts for it. And I would guess that it's a left pattern here. That puts us out over the lake there off to the left. I would guess that. We're not going to do that. We're going to take off and probably fly to the right because I want to show you Chicago and the skyline included with the Orbx scenery. Now what I should have done a while ago is turn on the landing lights. Oh well, now they're on now. Pitot heat can go on. Okay, so battery master switch is on. Alternator is on. Flight instruments, yep. Fuel selector is on desired. Tank is actually being managed for me. Fuel pump is on. Engine checks are complete. Alternate air is closed. Mixture set. Props set. Mixture is not set. And now it is. Flaps. We'll go first stage of flaps. Trims. Let's make sure we are in the takeoff range, and we're not. We're going to bring this pointer back up to the end for neutral. Good. Controls are free, and like I said, doors are latched. See what I mean? That door is not latched. Now it is. I think they left that little feature in there to force you to run the checklists. Okay, so we're going to go full power at 65 knots. We're going to rotate and then climb at 75. and away we go. So, reset the track IR, be very delicate with these rudder pedals. Full power. Like I was saying, be very delicate with the rudder pedals. I haven't set my sensitivity on them yet. There we are, there's 65, so we will rotate. Positive brake gear up. And we're going to trim to climb at about 75 knots, which is about there. This thing handles so well. About 300 feet, flaps up. And again, trim the aircraft to climb at about 75 knots. You can see the speed's picking up, so I'm just trimming nose up here just to bring that speed down a little bit and keep it at 75 knots. We'll take it up to about 2,000 feet. In fact, at 1,500 feet, I'm probably going to, or 1,000 feet, sorry, I'm going to bring the nose down and we will climb at 90 knots. There. So there's 80 knots. There's my 90 knots coming up now, so we'll start trimming the nose up again. Always feels like the aircraft wants to get away from you here. It's a feisty little plane, it really is. Oh my goodness, I'm having a hard time trimming 90 knots. 85-ish, coming up on 2,000 feet. Let's take it up to 2,500. Beautiful scenery, beautiful scenery. All this scenery outside, by the way, is stock other than Orbx Meigs Field, which includes Chicago. I'm not running any other scenery here or special textures or anything like that. It's all stock, except for Orbx Chicago, which is what we're flying over. But all that autogen, a lot of that autogen is not Orbx. There's 2,300 feet, so what I'm going to do now is going to reduce the power back to about 22, reduce the prop RPM back to about 22 as well, and we'll level off here at 2,500 feet. Aircraft wants to climb. Oh, look at that. That's Orbx. Amazing. Okay, try to get this thing level. Still climbing a little bit. I do like how this aircraft behaves in the air. It's really predictable and really smooth. I actually have the sim set. This is a cool feature with X-Plane 11, in case you don't know, is you can set, you know, typically with a sim, the simulation is tied to the frame rate. So if you're getting 30 frames per second, the simulation of the aircraft and its surfaces and airflow and all that good stuff is happening 30 times per second. In X-Plane, you can customize that. You can actually change that. I actually have the simulation rate set to 4 times the frame rate. So I'm getting between 120, 160-ish in that area simulation updates per second, which gives me a very, very smooth flight. Okay, let's start banking this over. Got to coordinate it. So feeding in a little rudder there, and really watching that side picture right here, out of the window, trying to get a feeling for how that horizon looks when I'm at 30 degrees of bank, which is here, and level, which I'm not. I'm currently climbing. There we go. Starting to descend a little bit, but that's fine. We want to get back down to that 2,500 feet, just because I like it there. We'll keep on banking around here. You see all the train tracks and the highways. Marvelous stuff. Oh, there's an aircraft up there. Quite a way away from us. Coming around to 0 now, or 360. There is the Chicago skyline in all its magnificent beauty in the distance, and we are at 2,500 feet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the autopilot. There's no reason to use the autopilot right now. I'm going to show you it. So we're going to set a heading hold here. I'll rotate this around to 0. There is not a pitch autopilot. It's just roll. And we will turn. Heading is here is on, heading on, autopilot on, and that's going to be basically heading a hold at 0 degrees. The reason I wanted to do that is, and let me just trim the aircraft. We are starting to descend. Need to manage that yourself with this autopilot. It's very basic and quite satisfying autopilot because it's so basic. Now I can go outside and put this in external views. Look at that beautiful scenery. Thank you, Orbx, for coming to the world of X-Plane. They have modeled so much stuff in here, like Soldier Field, I think, is up here. Maybe that, not the aquarium, what is it called? The Sky Zone thing. Look, there's a baseball pitch down there. The skyline is all custom as well, all these buildings. For downtown Chicago, there's the marina. They've added a ton of detail in here. It is great, great to see another high-quality developer join X-Plane. Javietsky are another company that does that kind of stuff. They add a lot of very cool details into their big city sceneries. Let's put this in rotation, and you can really take in everything about this incredible place. Utterly breathtaking. Now, of course, another cool feature with X-Plane is I can change the time of day very simply and show you how incredible the aircraft and this scenery looks at different points in time. So this is later in the morning, heading up towards lunchtime. Let's move it all the way up towards late afternoon now, heading into the evening. You've got that classic orange twilight glow. We head towards nighttime now. You can see the reflections. A wonderful PBR rendering on this aircraft as well. Look at that. There's the whatever that is, but that's unique to the scenery. What is that? The sky? There's an astronomy thing, and I can't remember what it's called. I think that's it. I don't know Chicago very well. Incredible scenery, incredible aircraft. Honestly, an incredible sim as well. There we are. Let's put this back where it was, which is early morning. I actually prefer the early morning light. Come on. Oh, they're back. See the shadows creeping like a time warp here. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm drop back in here. It is time to put this aircraft on the ground, which I'm not very good at. I've got to admit. I love this scenery, though. Look at this. Look at this. Tons of detail. That click you just heard was the auto switching automatically. He gets a paycheck this month. Beautiful. Okay. Let me recenter this. What I'm going to do is turn the autopilot off. Let's pop back over here to the autopilot. I don't have my buttons bound for autopilot disengage. I probably should. We'll start reducing power here and drop our altitude down. It's actually a tricky aircraft to land well. I mean, it's not tricky to land. It's very easy to land. It's tricky to land well. In fact, when I did the Jetline Systems video, I put a little snip at the end showing this aircraft landing at this scenery. That's probably the best landing I've ever had in this aircraft anywhere. And I bet I can't do it again. The reason why is obviously it's hard in a sim to judge your altitude above the ground. It's also an aircraft that just wants to fly. It's very aerodynamic. And it's very hard to get it to lose altitude the way you want it to. It's an all or nothing, especially as the speed drops. I tend to find once the speed drops beneath, say, 60 knots, the aircraft just wants to plummet groundwards. And a couple of times I've smacked this into the ground and all sorts of alarm bells and stuff go off, which is very cool to see that modeled. Now, I don't think I ever did I turn the fuel pumps off? No, I left the fuel pumps on this whole flight, which is terribly wrong, but okay. So I don't need to turn those on. Everything else is on the way it should be. So let's see if we can get this established in a nice descent here. So we're going to bring the nose up and drop the power. Look at that beautiful scenery again. That wonderful skyline. Drop the power a little bit. Try to establish 500 feet per minute. I'm going to put the first stage of flaps out. That's the gear landing gear warning horn kicking in because I was very low on the power. No VASI lights, PAPI lights, or anything like that here at Meigs. There's probably an ILS. I haven't looked it up. I'm going to do everything manual. Visual, I should say. Not manual. Visual. Good. Got a nice rate of descent. Our speed's looking good. I love this scenery. I think you're probably going to see... I started for a while with X-Plane. Whenever I would test a new aircraft, I would take it to Sanford, Orlando. That's where I live, and it's familiar to me. But I don't have good scenery for Sanford. Any one of you very talented scenery developers, Bill Womack, for example, you're starting to do X-Plane stuff now. Turbulent Designs, you're doing X-Plane stuff now. Orbx, do Sanford. Dedicated to Frugal. and do Sanford. I really want a high quality Sanford airport. Please do Sanford. Please. Please. I will pimp the crap out of it on this channel. Anyway, so because there's not a lot of stuff there, I think I'm probably going to start doing a lot more sort of first impressions and stuff like that here at Meigs. It's beautiful. I know I've got a landing gear warning going off. I have actually dropped the landing gear and flaps, and I'm quite happy with that horn going off. There we go. Because when it stops, it means my gear's down. Let's go for that final stage of flaps. Alright, so we're all very, very configured, and the cool thing is once I do land, I can pop up the replay, and I think the X camera system works very well with the replay, judging from the promo videos that I see people putting out of sceneries and aircraft and X-Plane, which all are made with X camera. It seems to be the de facto standard in the X-Plane world. So after we land this, and hopefully it's not abysmal, after we land this, we'll fire up the replay, put on that little X-camera orbital that I made, orbit, and you can see this in all its glory. Don't smack it into the ground, Frugal. We're coming in a good speed. I do feel that we're a little bit too high. It's going to reduce power a little bit. Trying to get that center line, the virtual center line of the runway running between my physical knees in the real world. That's how I tend to line up. It works for me. A little bit of power I found is very helpful on this last bit. As I said, the aircraft will pick up quite a rate of descent without you really wanting it to. Lots of back pressure here. Perfect. Now I just have to be gentle on these rudder pedals because, like I said, I haven't set up the null zone. People often complain, see I'm weaving all over the place now, people often complain controls are too sensitive in X-Plane, and they are, but you can adjust them. You can adjust them very easily. I just haven't bothered since I rebuilt X-Plane on this sim. One of the great features of X-Plane obviously is that you can back up the entire sim. Just copy it from one PC to your new PC. Obviously don't give it to your friends, that would be piracy. I didn't do that though. I was in such a hurry to get everything set up, I actually didn't bother with that. Alright, let's pop outside and do the replay tango. Toggle replay mode. Let's drop this back up to about here. That's good, isn't it? God, this looks good. Now I have noticed a bug in the replay with this aircraft, is you might notice some gear horns going off when they shouldn't be going off. I don't know what's up with that. I'm not really going to worry about it. Let's just play the replay here, and I will drop us outside. Amazing. So let's put in the orbit that I made, and you can see everything in all its glory. Enjoy. Now this is the bit where I thought I was perhaps a little too high. I don't think I was. I think I was good. And normally, because I have a hard time judging distances close to the ground in any sim, I normally have a long landing. I'm not entirely sure this was a long landing. I think I actually got it pretty good. We'll see. There's the threshold. Come on! Nah, maybe slightly long. There we go. Down we go. So there you are. The Just Flight Arrow 3. I really like it. Now, incidentally, I did mention in passing in a previous video about Pilot Edge and how I was scared of using Pilot Edge. I'm still terrified. Keith, the boss at Pilot Edge, reached out to me. I've known Keith for quite some years, since I first did all those Pilot Edge videos quite some time ago. But he reached out to me and said, Pete, come on. You're being foolish. We can help. So I may actually be taking him up on that offer. I'm still thinking about how to do it in the format, but what he suggested was work with him and his peeps to learn Pilot Edge and do a series of videos on it, because many of you are also as terrified of Pilot Edge as I am. So So we'll see. I think if I do that, it's probably going to be with this aircraft, because I really do like it with this sim, because it's growing on me quite a lot. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch these videos. My name is Frugal. Until next time, I'll see you all very soon.